Travis Wayne Goodsell. I noticed today that there is a pattern emerging, as I've known that Mormons are secretly watching my videos in the majority, as the analytics shows that the videos you guys also watch are Mormon related. So YouTube's giving you guys up. But the titles that condemn Mormons stay away from. They avoid. And so I'm only getting my ex-Mormons to come to those, outside of those who come for the sole purpose of putting a thumbs down. I am kind of surprised that my video comparing John Dehlin's psychology versus me with science in regards to warning about the church has done the same in regards to views, but there's more likes. Well, there's likes in that one versus the one where I exposed John Dehlin as a fraud. So that one's quite curious. Still had the same number of haters, but nobody stood in to protect John Dehlin as a fraud, but came and liked the one where I was comparing the two, and I still exposed him as a fraud in that one, but the title is the difference, which is interesting. And this is the topic for this video, is the deception of name changes that people fall for. If you're unfamiliar with world politics, Steve Bannon went to Europe after getting Trump elected and went to campaign for populism in Europe. And it's the same exact thing as conservatism. It's the same exact thing as Republicans. It's the same exact thing as fascism. They're just different names for the same type of thing. Now there's slight differences, not just because of the titles or the people running for those parties, but they're all under the umbrella of the dichotomous category of conservative. And he was just pushing for an alt-right version of conservatism. That's non-dichotomous categorization, which are subcategories. So dichotomous is only two options. The non-dichotomous are the subcategories within each of those dichotomous. And so, yes, liberals have it too. As communism and democracy. Notice that under the conservatives, the alt-right conservatives, Russia acted as Q and fooled MAGA supporters, as misinformation and disinformation was purposely designed to incite MAGA followers to violent insurrection. This is the danger of falling for name identifications. And you might recognize the scriptural passage from Isaiah calling good evil and evil good. That's how it's done. You don't just say, oh, well, this object, this idol, is good, because it can be neither good nor evil. It's an idol. If you believe it has good or bad value, you're an idol worshiper. What? No! Yes, Yes, you are. You fell for the brainwashing, misinformation, and disinformation campaign of religion so that you would be controlled in your behavior. And that's the whole point of this. The MAGA Qs had their behavior controlled to violent insurrection. This is the whole point and purpose and danger of brainwashing, mind control. You know, it's not a matter of hypnotizing. They're able to do this on a mass scale. So here's how the Dems are doing it. It's now the DQ, as I'm calling it. It's probably not going to go anywhere. But you'll understand, those of you who watch my videos, the difference between MAGA Q and DQ. Not to be confused with Dairy Queen. Great shakes. Stay away from the fries. Unless they've improved them since decades ago when I used to go there. Like I said, they're pushing democracy. Democracy this, democracy that, democracy, 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 democracy. That's a brainwashing technique. Constant repetition of falsehood. You tell a lie over and over and over and over again. We saw it with Trump. Rigged election, no collusion. Remember? He had tons of lies that he was telling. It was all a deception plot to brainwash, groom MAGA Qs. Because he wanted and prepared for his defeat. He wanted a way out. He doesn't want to be president. He used it for Russia. And so I'm kind of hoping that there will be some backbones and some spines that will actually go after Trump for capital crimes. It's not likely capital crimes, but that's part of the liberal failures, is they want to give everybody a second chance. Oh, Trump lost. Surely he will never try to run again and cause problems, and he's learned his lesson, blah, blah. Yeah, he never did he? This is the problem with the conservative movement. They don't learn their lesson. And liberals don't seem to learn theirs either. But it's a different response and purpose with liberals. And so liberals, yes, they're lying to you when they say we're supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. Don't let them fool you simply by saying, oh, no, democracy has this alternate meaning of where we have free and fair elections to vote representation. Yeah, that's communism. That's not a constitutional republic. Don't let them fool you. And so yes, I am not a party person. I went to one party in high school because I was the basketball celebrity. I never want to go to a party ever again. But that's a different story. Notice how the liberal media, since conservatives are out of government now, even though they're still in causing problems because the liberals did not remove those who incited the insurrection with Trump. They didn't hold anybody accountable. Yes, I hope the commission does. Great. I hope they go beyond Trump. I hope they point out several Congress people. Mike Lee, for example. So that, criminal charges can be brought up against Mike Lee too. And those others from Utah and other places, like the guy from Idaho, Crapo. But again, not holding my breath because Democrats don't want to hold anybody accountable. And thus we will have a rise, an uprising. If not by 2022, definitely by 2024. This is what I'm concerned about. But they always show on liberal media polling numbers, people's feelings and emotions on somebody or something that somebody is doing. So the latest thing, Biden is up in the polls 62%. That's a record since Trump. What they don't tell you is they only poll about 1,000 people. Yeah, and it's the same 1,000 people over and over again. How many Americans are there? Over 300 million, plus or minus the deaths from coronavirus. This is what's called an unsound argument, referred to as a small sampling. They can't use this argument. Polls are not news, and yet the liberal media loves it. Why? Because they want to promote democracy. What is democracy? Majority rules. So they love polls, especially when they show the majority opinion. Favoring Democrats, of course. Do you see the trap that liberals pose now? The DQ movement. We just went through the MAGA Qs. And now they're coming forward saying, we're telling you the truth. No, they're not. If you're unfamiliar with what's going on in China, a communist nation, where the emperor just became emperor for life, during Trump's administration, where Trump said, hey, I'd like to be emperor in America. That sort of failed, didn't it? But they have this social control system where they have everybody with a cell phone, sort of like us here in America. And they're able to track everyone. They control everyone's movements, social postings, purchases, everything is done through their phones. And a social credit system determines how much of a benefit for your life you receive. The one that was shown in the news here in America, covering the story years ago, was that if you are into video games, well, you have to reach a certain level of a credit score in order to obtain one. You then have to prove yourself good enough and raise your social credit to be able to get a second one. You only get a limited number of hours in a day, limited time in a day to play those games. So if you've ever played, what is it, Candy Crush? Yeah, Candy Crush. I've seen this type of social control in just that one game alone. They have me start out with 5 players. So if I fail to clear a board, I get a second chance, up to 5. Once those 5 are done, there's a time limit. And if I run out of time and I have to wait 30 minutes for the next player to be used, they offer me to pay for more turns. Yeah, that ain't happening. And so they're controlling the amount of play when it's just a game of chance. There's very little skill involved. That's the whole lifeline for China in their system. You only get a certain amount for food, for clothing, for a home. if your social credit isn't high enough, you don't get access to better quality of life. There are a lot of Chinese people who are being denied entrance into the social credit because their credit has tanked, and so they're off the grid. And China knows how to deal with those kinds of people as they bulldoze their homes, rendering them homeless, casting them out, not getting their kids identified. Oh, sort of like in Mexico, where people come to our borders undocumented. It's the government to blame, not the people. This is what Democrats want to turn America into. And so, this is what you will have to expect until Republicans bully their way into power again. And then we go through abuse, which will be even worse the next time around. Because now Republicans know what they can get away with. And we don't want a full conservative government, because they'll never give it back to Republicans or Democrats. They will lock people up. It will become a slave state. And so don't be fooled by Democrat versus globalist versus democracy versus communism. They're all the same word. They're just trying to deceive you. You have to pay attention to what is being done with that name. And so, law and order for MAGA accuse? Well, yeah, slavery. Law and order or whatever for Democrats. Segregation, social control, where people get cancel cultured if you're in the minority. That's what we're looking for. That's what's going to happen if Democrats are able to maintain power. Cancel culture will dominate. There will be no more justice. There wasn't justice under conservatives, but there won't be under Democrats either. It'll just be a different form of abuse. So then the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has to be talked about because nobody cares about my politics. But hopefully that helped you understand the subject matter. Don't fall victim to the name. Pay attention to what is done with the name. As Mormons, we go to the temple. We now take upon ourselves the name of Christ. We now represent Christ. At baptism, we are willing to take upon ourselves the name of Christ. And so what is done with the name of Christ in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Well, I've gone over it. Mormons don't want to watch those videos because they're not being Christ-like. The Mormon Church purposely incites Mormons to be evil, to follow Lucifer, to take away agency, to bully, abuse, and defend with lies the lies that the church are telling. And so you have Mormons who refuse to study church history, who believe whatever the church tells them to believe, even if it keeps changing. And just come out and say, oh yeah, well we found out more information, so yeah, now Joseph Smith, translated by the gift and power of God, meant that he looked at rocks in a hat. It's all a lie. Joseph had nothing to do with the Book of Mormon. But then why? Nobody asks why. But Mormons don't even care to get to that point to ask why. Whatever the church tells them, that's what they believe. And so anybody like me who actually does the research and finds out the why, Mormons don't care, even when it protects and supports the Smiths. Because it's not what Mormons are told by the leaders. And so, yeah, I had that video, was it this morning? Where I went over the guy's comment from last night. You know, I'm trying to explain how Joseph Smith's looking at a rock in a hat is the exact same pattern of him digging up the plates from out of the ground with a rock over the top of them. Apparently I'm the only one who caught it, but Mormons don't want to know about it. They don't care. Church isn't telling them, so it's not true. Ex-Mormons don't want to know about it either, because they've already made up their minds that the church is all evil. That's the church's trap. That's why John Dehlin is so evil. He's purposely spreading the big lie that the church is allowing to be spread, because it still stays away from the truth. The church doesn't want the truth. And if ex-Mormons are going to continue to spread the lies, they're just fine with that, because it creates this dichotomous position where the church gets to claim, oh, we're a religion. Those ex-Mormons are persecuting us for our religion. And the ex-Mormons legitimize the church because they're promoting the lie. And the church knows it's a lie. And so they know that all they have to do is get the ex-Mormons to actually do the research to find out the whys. Why was Sidney Rigdon the author? Why was Joseph Smith Sr. a York Rites Master Mason in Canandaigua, New York? Why was he a New Israelite Congregationalist? Why? Ex-Mormons aren't going there either. Because the church told a lie after being caught lying, so they come up with another lie to explain the whole thing away. And so, yes, the church, early church with Brigham, talked about Joseph being a translator and perpetuated it, that, oh yeah, Heavenly Father and Jesus actually appeared to him, and so did Moroni as they changed it from Nephi. And Joseph Smith actually had the plates. But now we find out that Joseph Smith didn't translate. So the church says, oh yeah, well, we never said he translated. But it supports the lie. So if you're unaware of what's going on locally in the news, they're trying to decide if they're going to change the name of Dixie College, because it's Confederate. We had that whole thing about white supremacism of the conservatives. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is conservative, which means they're white supremacist. They're a terrorist group. That's what white supremacy is. And that's what the church is. So Brigham Young, white supremacist. That's why we have Confederate Dixie in the South. They purposely moved there for that reason. And so now they're trying to say, well, we'll just change the name of Dixie. But that does not change the hearts and minds of Mormons. You can change the name, but the principles are still going to be practiced. That's the deception of the name game. And conservatives will say, oh, okay, we can't use that name anymore. Fine. We'll call it this then. And everybody thinks everything's fine and back to normal. But then people are going to get upset when white supremacy in action takes place. You know, sort of like police beating up Black Lives Matter protesters, as we all witnessed last year in Utah as well. And so even Brigham Young University, did you know? I'm pretty sure all of you know, it was me who had to find out when I moved here, that the University of Utah was the original Brigham Young University. Nobody explained to me what happened. Why is it now the University of Utah, and can the United States just come in and confiscate Brigham Young University and rename it the University of Utah, forcing the church to have to build a whole new university down in Provo? This is what I was left to believe, that the United States are the bad guys. Come to find out, remember that Edmunds-Tucker Act that disincorporated the church? Yeah, they took the university in that confiscation. They offered to rent it back to the church, but the church decided, you know what? I don't think we can afford going into that much deep of debt. They hadn't quite had Lorenzo Snow, who came up with this brilliant idea called using tithing as a protection racket. The windows of heaven hadn't happened yet. And so yes, the brothels no longer were in operation, and neither was the university, among other things as well. The brewery, the tobacco plantation. So don't be fooled. Just because it's called by a different name doesn't mean it's the same. And even if it's called by the same, don't be fooled by that either. This is why the church fools us in the church. Oh, we're the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Joseph Smith is our founder. And in so saying, they claim true succession. They're not. There are numerous reasons why they're not, but the main one is that they didn't follow Joseph Smith's succession protocols. Section 107, verse 22. As they've changed it as to what we all know it now as a sustaining vote. Can't find sustaining vote anywhere, but that's what they're referring to. And so, Moroni chapter 10, verses 4 and 5. The traditional practice of Mormonism is completely contrary to that passage. If Mormons were to apply English grammar and actually sit down and study their Book of Mormon and get to that passage, they would go, oh crap, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. I'd have to get a physical manifestation? Holy crap, I thought it was just spiritual feelings that it was all I needed. And this means it's harder. I have to actually do work to find out the truth. Crap. So, yeah. Don't fall for the trap of name titles. You will be deceived. And so, yes, they're not the Church of Jesus Christ. They follow Lucifer because they take away agency. It's not a complicated thing.